votes on many of the issues. What you have to remember is Republicans have controlled everything in your country for probably about the last 15 or 20 years, and in your state. We didn't have the majorities the Democrats have, but for the most part, we were holding our strong numbers all across the levels of government here in our country. And yet, for some reason, all of those conservative ideals that you heard expressed at forums like this, at your Lincoln Day dinners, out on the street when people were campaigning, they didn't manifest themselves the way we expected them to, did we? The budget deficits continue to grow, the governments continue to grow, and the issues that we truly care about haven't been addressed. As you make your decision, I ask you to consider this. We've got plenty of experience in Washington, highly successful men and women who've been prosperous in their private lives. What we're lacking is men and women with courage and understanding of the role the government should be playing in our lives. It's not just about balancing a budget. It's about moving the government out of those areas that are keeping us from being prosperous.
Thank you. The next response and closing statement will come from Jim Renacci.
Thank you, and I do want to thank you all for being here, and I want to thank the Christian Alliance again and Christian Alliance for having this. It's a great way of everyone getting to know who we are. You know, and again, the number one goal here is to select a candidate who can remove John Bocherry. We all know that Mr. Bocherry is not representing this district and needs to be removed. So you all need to make a decision, because as Mr. Miller said, many of our answers are similar. But there is extreme differences. I, for one, have been a businessman for 27 years. So when you talk about the economy and jobs, which is our number one issue in this district and in this country, I'm the only one that can say I've created 1,500 jobs. I'm the only one that can say I've employed over 2,500 people. I'm the only one that can say that I've balanced a budget within a business. Also, when it comes to government, I did spend 4 years at the city of Wadsworth. My goal there was to balance a budget. I'm proud to say, as mayor, I was able to balance a budget and leave it with a surplus for those 4 years. I am not a career politician. In fact, I'm not even a politician. I'm running because I'm unhappy with what's going on. But let me tell you something. Congress today, it's interesting. Here's what we need in Congress. Right now, the Senate, 80% of the Senate has no business experience. 70% of the House has no business experience. They've never created a job. They've never made a payroll. They've never had the opportunity to balance a budget and understand the struggles of employment. I'm the only candidate that has done that, and I've done it successfully. So I hope I can have your vote, and I hope I can earn your support, and we can move forward and remove John Bocherry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Renacci. Our third closing statement will come from candidate Doyle Smith.
I'm a man who likes to deal with Christ and allow him to take charge. One time, many years ago, I had finished a project and wanted to know what next I should do. So I prayed, and I went to the Bible and opened it, and the phrase that came up was, "And David reigned 7 years on Hebron." My father had a house, and his sister was taking care of it. He asked me to fill in for his sister while she went on a trip. She became sick, died, and for the next 7 years I lived in my dad's house on Hebron Street. Now, this has happened to me all my life, so it's not a matter of just a coincidence. And I've got one type of faith with Christ. You have another, and all of you have a relationship with Christ, because if you weren't, you wouldn't be a Christian. But when it comes to that, I could remember a discussion of a temptation in the wilderness when Satan told Christ he would give him the world if he bowed down to him. Now I'm listening to Christ, and I'm going to listen to you too, but do not expect me to go exactly with what any one of you says I should do. I'll use my intelligence to do what I think Christ wants done in this country.
Thank you very much. And our final response will come from candidate Paul Schiffer.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact that being invited to this forum And let me conclude by saying that Matt Miller, in his concluding statement, said something that I think most people in the room would agree with, that, you know, from the sound of things, we sound alike almost, to varying degrees. And that may be true. We may vote about the same way in Washington, D.C. I don't know. I know how I'll vote, but I don't know how Matt or Jim or Mr. Smith would vote. But I'll tell you this much. There is one big glaring difference between the four of us, and that is me. In Washington, D.C., I've spent 20 years lobbying and sacrificing for the cause. And without going into great detail, yes, we may, to a certain degree or another, vote about the same down there. I want you to know that I'm not just a Republican. I'm a patriot first, I'm a Christian first, and I'm a constitutionalist. So I will vote the right way when it comes to reining in the strength and power of the federal government. I'm pro-life. I've already proved that. I've sacrificed for the cause. So in me, you see a candidate who has already sacrificed, who has given his life to preserve our Constitution, fighting against government regulators, fighting for the life of the unborn. And if I can do that as just a regular citizen, I can guarantee you that when in Washington, D.C., if you elect me, I will do my job and sacrifice for our country even more than ever. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone this evening for participating in this evening's candidate forum. Thank you to the Ohio Christian Alliance for putting it together, and News Talk 1480 WHBC for airing it on their station. I want to thank also the candidates for choosing to run for office, which is not easy, and for being here this evening to share you their opinions. Most importantly, I'd like to thank you, the audience, for caring enough to come forward to listen to their thoughts, and for those that are listening on the radio this evening. And remember, one final thought, the election, the primary election, is Tuesday, May 4th. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.